Good evening and welcome back to the Radius.
Hello, my name is Chindi.
Hello, I'm Tabitha, and we have an unpopular opinion segment today about languages.
Yes, and I'm the one who has that unpopular opinion. And we are going to delve into why I think that this popularizing the idea that if you learn a second language, and this makes you sort of intellectually superior or have a high IQ, certain part of your brain is activated and then new cells created, as sort of overdone and over exaggerated because there are other factors that do that as well, and I'll talk more about that.
And if you haven't noticed, we are at our outdoor location, which is quite lovely. We're enjoying it. But if you hear background noise and things of that nature, that's nature actually surrounding us, birds and squirrels and things of that nature.
Yes, and it's
It's organic, we like it.
yeah, we love it, but don't get surprised if there's anything weird happening on the camera and you're like, what's going on? Why are they behaving like this?
But for our listeners who listen to our podcast, it'll be a very ambient episode. So as you can hear, there's some bird going crazy in the background. So back to our show. We're talking about unpopular opinions, which there is this pervasive idea in our culture that if you learn another language, you become more well-rounded. You'll have all these social graces. You somehow have a higher intellect, and additionally, it's this very useful tool. And you disagree with most of these assumptions.
Yes, I do. And by the way, a lot of people are going to say, oh, you're one of those people who only knows one language. No, I actually can speak four languages quite fluently. In other words, I can either speak it extremely well, I can understand exactly what you're saying. I can speak Bemba, Nyanja, although Nyanja is, I can understand, I can speak it that well, I must be frank. French and Japanese, of course, I'm excluding English here. So that would be probably the other language. And in a way, I've learned other languages just like everybody else. Sometimes I've gone to school. For example, I learned French that way. I learned Japanese that way. Actually went to Japan. So I should be the one excited that indeed I have this higher IQ. But no, I'm not going to buy it. I have to look at information critically.
So really the assertion for that came from the fact that many youth, basically people under 7, have this high learning curve and this higher capacity to learn in those formative years when you're pretty much from when you're not walking or talking to when you're learning those skills. If you actually learn another skill such as another language or piano or fencing, whatever the skill may be, you're going to have this higher learning curve. However, in the marketing of languages, we see that they kind of package it with these sort of assertions that it'll kind of have these, if you've seen the movie Limitless, these sort of like give you this competitive edge in the marketplace. You're going to basically have all these social graces. You're going to go to Spain and make friends very easily, and you're going to be perceived as this super intellectual person. And what I always suspected is that it went back to the elite, basically in times of kings and queens and things of that nature. Not that we don't have kings and queens now, but where there were courts and things, it was very common for people to know multiple languages. So I always saw it as something that it was like an edge in terms of, I wouldn't say class, but in terms of you being this well-rounded person, you learn all these extra languages. But
Yes.
even that you disagree with. You felt that they learned languages not to be well-rounded, but for the purposes of,
Yeah.
you said for negotiating, I guess?
Negotiating, it gives you an edge when you're negotiating. I mean, if you speak somebody's language and you're negotiating, it gives you that edge. I mean, it really does. It does make a huge difference if knowing somebody's language and not knowing it. Those are two different things. I mean, you see this all over the world. You're treated differently if you know somebody's language than if you don't. And yes, I definitely look at things that way. But also, this is very, very fundamentally important. I think sometimes the translation industry has become smaller because there's translation software. I mean, there's this software that you can even carry a small, gadget, something that looks like a small radio or something like that, or MP3 or something like that, and to translate for you into some languages. I mean, they're not very advanced, but they do a very good job at doing it, especially at conversational level. And there are couples who've gotten married without knowing each other's languages. They met on the internet. They communicated using Google search. They just search the word and they know the meaning, and then they have the other person look at it and they say, oh yeah, and that's how they became a couple, and now they're married. And there were two couples that were reported, I think, recently on BBC. That's where I found it, I think. And so these are things that are happening today.
So it's sort of to eliminate the fact that you can easily use an app for that, to use a phrase. They have to assert that there's some kind of advantages to you learning languages these days.
Yes, they have to assert that, and they have to over-exaggerate it. And that's what I have a problem with. It's like, it's like I am not saying that learning a language does not increase your IQ, or does not create those brain, neurological connections. It does. The question is, are there other things that do the same thing? The answer is yes, there are other things that do the same thing. Example, if you go out and learn how to dance, you learn, a lot of people do Zumba. Does the same thing. You've never danced before, you have to learn how to dance in a different way, how to move your body. It does the same thing. You go and learn mathematics and you've never done advanced mathematics, you do the same thing.
It lights up the same neurotransmitters and it impacts the similar areas of the brain, which is basically that for learning a new skill.
Exactly. You are learning a new skill, it's advancing you, and it's forcing.
And there are advantages to that in itself.
Exactly.
At the Radius, we very much support and promote the idea of continuous learning and basically stretching, which is why we have the title Radius. Sort of start from where you are and branch out, if you will, into new realms, and something we support and endorse very much. So continuous learning is something that's advantageous for every person from every walk of life, is to continuously be sharpening that tool that is your mind. But whether it's, do you have to put a lot of money into learning a language, or if it's not something that you have the time or energy for, it's not going to be something that you're at a fault or default for.
Yes, I mean, what happens is people begin thinking, oh, if I learn a new language, you'll give me this advantage and this edge. And then they'll notice that there's no significant difference, and really there isn't, because whenever you get a new job, you have to learn a new skill. That also requires some part of your brain to develop. It's when you're socializing with a totally different group of people, like strangers, people that you don't know, there's a different part of your brain, because you gotta learn about these new people that you're dealing with psychologically. So when people say, oh, it increases your IQ, makes you smarter. Yes, it does, but it's not the only thing that does it. There are other things that do make you smarter. So don't buy into this, I also call it buy into the Kool-Aid. You buy into this stuff, and then you think, oh yes, I'm going to spend all this money doing it, and that will be it. I mean, there are times in English, when at the times Tabitha communicates with me, I say, what do you mean, Tabitha? I have no idea what you said. Some of those words that you use, like deleterious, right, Tabitha? I mean, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what did you say? Did you mean this, or did you mean that? And that can activate a certain part of your brain, because you learn to communicate with somebody. And I'm used to communicate, which is a good friend of mine, but at the beginning it was, did she say this, or did she say? And we're both speaking English, but we're speaking English differently. And this happens even with accents and so on and so forth.
Vernacular.
Yes, exactly.
Vernacular language. I can go to the West Coast right now, and they probably have a whole cadre of slang terms that I'm not familiar with at all. And I would be like basically a foreigner amongst them, because things are kind of regional too. So I mean, I could study French, but to be immersed in France is quite different. You went to France several times, so your French was very you immersed yourself in the culture, so you conversed with people from France, whereas me, it might be a little academic, and it would take me a while to basically pick up like the little nuances of how they speak of things.
Exactly. It's basically it's a different culture, it's different, and you have to learn new things and how to approach. I lived in Japan, it's the same thing, a different language, you have to adapt differently, and you have to do things very, very differently. Also, what I realized is that when I came to America the first time, after a long time, I was born here, and I came back here, I noticed I couldn't understand the accent very well. I really did. I could not. They would say something, or they'll say words like "my bad," and I would say, "What do you mean, my bad? What is that?" And it took me a while, and so that activated a different part of my brain at the time. So these are things that you learn as you age. What I tell people is learn something new all the time. Try to learn something. When you've mastered something else, learn something else. I see you do that all the time. I'm lazy. But I see you're always learning something. You're acquiring this knowledge. I mean, we worked at the same place and you were just doing these things that I am just like, I really don't care. And yeah, you've done pretty well because of it. And so it's a good thing to learn something new.
Yes, definitely. Always be learning something, right? So, with that being said, that's an unpopular opinion, however, because the rest of the world asserts that you'll be this worldly, sophisticated person if you take on new languages. In addition to that, you might have like some IQ points jumping up. So, I've seen some advertisements that allude to that, so I know exactly what you're talking about. It's sort of like it's sort of like a stretch. They'll be fine if they just said, if you want to learn Spanish, we have some resources, great. But to sort of assert these other things, like you hear in the late night, as seen on TV. This is going to change your life. How? It's a noodle strainer, but whatever. So with that being said, we want you to like this if you like this topic. Comment if you have something to say about it and you feel differently. Maybe we alluded or didn't go over a point that you have, or you have a counterpoint. We're welcome.
You have very good counterpoints, and my research is just not good enough. I want to hear from you. You're a professor of psychology or something, linguistics or whatever, and you're looking at me and saying, this guy is just an idiot. That's fine. That's okay.
Yes,
it's okay to call me an idiot. I won't take it personal. Trust me.
And which is why this segment is unpopular opinion.
Exactly.
Because we definitely want people to change or sort of challenge what is sort of asserted as everyday fact all the time. Because I think if we delve a little bit deeper, we can find that learning a language or learning anything else is very beneficial. So maybe it's the fact of learning anything else that our culture should promote, and not specifically just new languages.
And that's what I would say. I would totally agree with you on that point. I think you promote learning something new, whatever it is. Just learn it. Actually, I'll tell you the truth. If you could learn Ebonics and it will have the same effect. I'm telling you. It's true. 100% true.
So with that being said, definitely like, comment, share, and we want to hear from you. And of course, check out our other videos on our channel, and we of course are going to upload podcasts of this episode as well. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.